Hey there, welcome to the QB Show. My name is Stacy Kildal, and my co-hosts are Woody Adams and Dawn Brolin. We want to ask you guys to take a couple minutes to visit each one of our sponsors and check them out. They've been helping us bring the show to you for the last 4 years. We have Avalara.com, making sales tax less taxing. They will calculate and pay your sales tax liability and take care of all of your returns as well. We have tsheets.com. This is probably the #1 employee-rated time tracking application on the planet, if not the galaxy, and an amazing team of people behind it. We have Skyline Hosting by UniDataIT.com. This is where we host all of our QuickBooks software as well as our other software like Microsoft Office. So please take a minute and visit them, and I hope you enjoy our show.
Well, welcome everyone to the QB Show. Thanks for your patience there. It took me about a minute to keep clicking start broadcast until it eventually started. It kept failing on me, but thanks for your patience there. And it's just going to be myself, and we do have a special guest I'm going to bring on in a moment here. I'm really excited about that tonight. But my name is Woody Adams. Just to get a few administrative things out of the way, I'm a product specialist with Intuit about 10 years, and dealing mostly in the QuickBooks realm. Also, the opinion statements or views expressed in the show may or may not reflect the opinion statements or views that are held by Intuit. Intuit's not affiliated with the show, but you know they send us a lot of product managers and genuinely are behind it, which is really nice. And we've been doing it for 4 years. And I want to thank everybody who played for the last month or so. We've been giving away these prizes for our 4-year anniversary, and I wanted to thank all the sponsors as well as non-sponsors like Fundera, who gave us some gifts to give away to people. And before I bring Christine on, because this is one of the cool gifts and her ability to come tonight, I'm very excited about this. But remember, tomorrow, if you're in the Rhode Island area or Connecticut, even Fall River, Taunton, Tiverton, you like my accent on the Taunton? That's because I grew up near there. Anyway, go to Providence tomorrow at 9 o'clock. You'll be there all day. We're going to put on this free local event. You can find out more about it at qbclocal.com, and that's where you can register. It's at the Omni Providence Hotel, and it's tomorrow. I mean, we've been building it up the last three weeks or so, but just in case anyone's listening or watching or what have you, and you happen to be in the Rhode Island area, there's going to be some, they're serving lobster for lunch. That's a big thing. But it's a QB local event, QB Connect local, kind of like the one we had in Mountain View, but smaller, but it's really for Providence and the surrounding area. So very exciting, a lot of good speakers as well as deep dive QBO training. But enough about that, and Stacy and Dawn are also, Dawn's going to be there, so she's traveling there right now or at some VIP event, so she won't be on. And Stacy's flying to Dallas because tomorrow we're doing a QB Connect there, a QBO certification there tomorrow in Dallas at the Galleria Mall. They're off 635, and then there's Houston, etc. So neither Stacy and Don will be on. However, I'm very excited. The Executive Director of Technology in a Box and a longtime QuickBooks Advanced Certified Pro Advisor, Wells Guru, Christine Galli, is on the show with us. And Christine, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out tonight for coming on the QB Show. And how's it going? And you might be muted. Are you muted? Let me see. I don't think so. I can't hear your voice at all. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, it might be your microphone or something. No. I like that you have a guitar in the back, though. That's pretty cool in the background. Very nice. But so I don't know. Do you have like a headset or something you can plug into the computer? Sometimes it doesn't pick up on the monitor or the computer itself. Yeah, feel free to put it in the chat. So while waiting for okay, cool. So while waiting for Christine to come in, I did want to. I got some good info on Christine Galli, and she's from Southern Michigan, and I think it's Southeastern Michigan. We'll let her explain that a little better. But of course, Technology in a Box has been around for a while, and I'm really hoping when she's able to get some audio going there.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, Christine, there you are. Great, awesome. So thanks for coming.
Thanks, and thank you for being the only host that's left, because the two are off and traveling, and here you are, sicker than a dog.
I know. I sound terrible, I'm sure.
And the show must go on, as they say.
Yeah, no, we're going to keep it going, and thanks for your patience with that. Yeah, I mean, my voice is wrecked a bit, but I started the antibiotics, so I should be okay. And I got, here's Nicola, my wife, made some chicken soup. As you can see, there's the bowl. I got
and
hot
you have a
tea.
new backdrop.
I know. I know. I was getting tired of the white wall, so I like this. This is actually, Nicola made this. It's coffee bags, like old coffee bean bags, and a board, like a table. It's pretty sweet. Very interesting.
I love it. Yes,
So
I
you
have
are.
a guitar.
Yes, I do like the guitar there. That's nice. It looks like a Yamaha, as far as I can tell. But that's
You
what I
got
can
it.
tell. Yeah.
Good eye, Woody.
So I want to thank you for coming on the show, and congratulations on winning the gift. But we should have had you on before, because you've been doing the stuff with QuickBooks for so long. And I have some questions. You sent me a link to Wendy's blog, and I took some of the questions from there. But first, I was wondering, Christine, if you could just kind of explain, how kind of what you do for people that, like, everybody knows you, the Goes This Leader and Scaling New Heights, and a lot of people know of Technology in a Box, but kind of how you came into it and what you do for those that don't know.
Well, how I came into it was just a freak accident.
Oh, sorry, guys, we lost her. I'll email her, see if we can get her back in. That was strange. Let's see. Yeah. So I do apologize. Let me email her real quick. At least so you're watching me do an email. I should share out, and then you could see it in action. Try to join again by clicking the link. But it's really cool if you go. I don't know if you guys have ever been to technologyinabox.com, and they actually offer training for QuickBooks, a wide range, desktop, QBO. And I've known some of the people involved, and Christine's been involved with it since 2007, but she's really been in the QB world since 1994. And one of the cool stuff that I'll let her explain when she comes back is that she was one of the original people who wrote the very first Pro Advisor exam, certification exam. So that's pretty exciting. Oh, there she is. Cool. So we'll let her come back in right now. Christine, you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Cool. Oh, I hear you great.
Okay. So back to our technical difficulty. I actually was a learning specialist. I had gotten a master's in education, and I worked at a clinic, and I worked one-on-one with kids for 10 years. And some, not just kids, but some of them were like factory workers and adults that just didn't know how to read or spell, and they were in their 30s or 40s, and really did not, they felt very intimidated not knowing how to write or spell or do something that everyone else could do. And that's just what I got involved in. And I used to keep track of all of my accounting by hand on paper, or I type it up on a typewriter.
Oh.
And
like an old word processor? Like an old word processor?
I hadn't even, I was 37, Woody. I had never even touched a computer.
Nice.
So all of a sudden, Lisa McCarthy actually came in and became a manager of the office, and she became tutor as well and started QuickBooks. It was in 1993.
Oh, wow.
I know, and it just had come out on the shelves, and she set it up. It was DOS 1.0, and all of the people in the office are freaking out, like, you're going to get rid of our pegboard system? And I thought it was fascinating. I was so fascinated by the computer, the technology, clicking a button, getting the reports we needed. I used to have to argue for an hour about what the client, paid and this and that. And here I had this report. All of a sudden, it was magic. And I left teaching after 18 years and basically started something new.
So you actually used that first version then. It came out in spring of '92, but the '93 version they bought was probably it, right, on the shelf.
Yep.
So you probably. That's amazing. Have you seen Doug Sleater's video, YouTube? He did last year on, either last year or 2 years ago on on DOS on the QB1, the DOS version?
I did, and I laughed. I laughed so hard because I thought, I wonder how many people these days really know, Alt L and just all the commands we used to have to do. But even then, Woody, it was like a fabulous program. It was simple, but it was great. Everything related, relatable tables. People still try to build their own now, and I'm like, that is just too much energy for something that's already a canned product. So.
Well, and Doug had mentioned, he said the best thing was there was like an electronic check, right? There was a check up on the screen that I could fill out, and that was like the big, epiphany. Now, do you remember whether they're keystrokes or particular features that are pretty much fundamentally the same, like even today?
Yeah, like Control Enter, the Control I for creating an invoice. For a long time, when we were writing manuals, we still included a sheet on keystrokes. And I remember even Stacy one time showing the keystrokes for QuickBooks Online.
Right.
And just as amazed as people were when there were keystrokes for Windows, I was amazed that there were for QuickBooks Online. I had no idea.
And there's less, and it's an extra tab. It's like Control Alt and I, would be Control I. But I think that's a good comparison of QBO and desktop. We have keystrokes, but there's not as many in desktop, and I think that's just kind of a good analogy for now. So that's cool. A lot of the features were fundamental from DOS, and sorry for that tangent, but I'm always, I came on with 02 and 03 QuickBooks, so it was when for the most part, fundamentally, it's very much the same, except, of course, we changed the user interface in 13, and other than that, there's a lot of stuff that's very similar. So.
Well, it was the same time we were tugging on people to get away from Lotus Notes and onto Excel for Windows. And people are like, this mouse thing is a pain. Yeah. I mean, it was that long ago where people are just like, I don't want to use a mouse. I just want to use a keyboard.
Right.
I almost want to do one of those infographics and just show the look and feel of a check from 20 years ago, 21 years ago.
Right. So I understand now why QuickBooks, and if you were, one of the first group, I wonder how many of them are you of the DOS 1, like really aficionados, because, how many people, I don't know how many units we sold of that, let's say in 92, late 92 and 93, so it'd be interesting to know. So now I get why you came to QuickBooks and why, it makes sense when you went into training with your education background. But before that, I saw some good color. Do you want to explain a little bit about working for your dad, the entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, that's another part of it. My father was a huge entrepreneur. When people were just going off and they were doing their thing with corporations, my dad always wanted to own his own place. And from the beginning of franchises in the early 60s, he wanted to get on board with franchises. He thought franchises were just the coolest thing, basically because he loved that he didn't have to reinvent the branding, but he could capitalize on the branding, but you could still kind of build your own business within the confines of the branding. And so, first of all, when I was 6 years old, I would sit and practice my handwriting, filling out the postcards to send to his customers through a list, and we'd have to check them off, and there were all of us little girls around the table getting all these printouts from the franchisor that said, these are all the new people that bought cars. And so we had to get out the little postcard and practice our handwriting and check off only the zip codes that were near his store. Yeah. So that was my first experience, of slave labor with no pay. Then I graduated to actually working in his stores.
Okay.
When I was 12 or 13, he first owned auto rust proofing. It was called Z-Bar. Okay. And so from there, I started answering phones. And then doing sales pitches from the script. It was all branded. You had to say the same thing.
Right.
I sometimes was at the store by myself at 13 and 14, and the workers were there. And then, you know, I'd get this call. It sounded like a crank call, and this man you could hardly understand with some kind of accent asking about a certain model and a certain car and how much was rust proofing, and I'd go through my spiel, and he'd say, "You forgot to offer the Michigan State Fair coupon." I said, "Dad, is that you again? Stop with the crank calls." So he was always challenging me.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he was testing you with a call. I get it. All right, so he was a caller. That's
really
awesome.
Funny. He's just a funny guy. He was just always into like his franchises, and then that was started by Zbart and by the corporation. But he went to a couple of stores. Like there's a place in Michigan called the President Tuxedo, and one of his friends was heavily involved, and he went to them and said, "I want to buy a franchise," and they're like, "Alec, we don't sell franchises." He said, "But you should sell one to me. Right. I will make it grow." And then he bought more and more and more and got him franchising. And then he did the same thing with Coffee Beanery. He told them he could make their stores grow and they should franchise, and he got him to do that. And he was just like that. He was very convincing.
Well, so this really makes sense then, if for people that know you, but even if they don't, but they see you or they've been a part of the training or gone to Technology in Your Box, I get the QuickBooks background, and with the educational piece, it totally makes sense while you wrote training, and then of course the entrepreneurial spirit from your dad. So that's really nice nostalgia. I appreciate you talking about that. Now, when you were dialing in, I made a remark, and I wanted a little story on. You were the very first person or original writer of the ProAdvisor Cert exam. Did I read that correctly?
Co-author. In 1998, we started it. Came out in 99.
Nice. So how did that come about? Like, how did they reach out to you?
It was funny. At the time, our company was called Accounting Resource. I was partners with Lisa McCarthy. Okay. She became, before Real World Training, there was another company that did seminars all over the country. She ended up being a speaker for them, and she was speaking in the San Francisco area, and all of a sudden, two people came up, Ted Patton and somebody Sargent, and she said, "Wow, that's kind of funny, you know, those are names that are actually in the QuickBooks program." And they're like, "We know, we are them."
Oh,
they were from Intuit. They were from Intuit, and they talked to her about us writing the certification. And after we wrote it, then I was involved in doing all the Camtasia videos, all the screenshots with Snagit. So it was hours and hours.
Oh, yeah.
Back then it was like the hot spots, and you'd have to click something, and then another screen came up, and there were 40 consecutive screens that kind of walked you through it, and we had to do like shot after shot. It was like slow motion.
Oh, man, so, that must have taken months to put together.
It actually took close to a year.
Yeah, I would say. Working pretty diligently on it.
Did the update for the next year, and then it went digital. So. Okay.
And do you recognize a lot of your original content in that ProAdvisor cert?
It's funny because at the beginning, when we wrote it and then they published it, we looked and we did the find a ProAdvisor, and we weren't on the list. And we're like, "Wait a minute, do we have to take the test? Hold on." Let me get out all the questions I wrote. We won't have any trouble with it. No,
probably not. That's awesome.
It was funny.
Yeah, the certs now are a little different. The QBO one, I mean, I do it sometimes on the phone or on the iPad. It just must be very unique for you to see how it's changed. You know,
everything's evolved. And Woody, that was funny that you kind of bring up the history, because one of the reasons why I went over to T-Sheets to help them with their, launch their certification was because I had that background,
Yep.
not only of the certification, but just QuickBooks in general. When I saw them at the Scaling New Heights in June, I said, boy, everyone is so in love with you guys, so in love with the product. I see the next step is the certification. I look back at QuickBooks, we were all so involved with QuickBooks.
Right.
And then they started QuickBooks Pro Advisor, and everybody signed up, and we're all like, but everybody can't service people. How are you going to distinguish these people? And it was the same thing with T-Sheets. They already had 800 Pro Advisors back in June.
Excuse me.
And we all wanted to know, how are you going to distinguish yourself?
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea. I forgot that you wrote that. It just came back when you mentioned it because I saw it on Twitter, of course, and social media. And we had a couple of them on the show just before they were launching, or just after they had launched the certification, and they mentioned your name, and we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, they're really rolling. T-Sheets is really rolling. And it's funny. I was reading on Facebook. I don't know if you're friends with Matt on Facebook or even on Twitter. He challenged the team, for 2015, right? So it's like, you can't rest on your laurels kind of thing. What are we going to do to help make T-Sheets even better for our customers and the experience and the product? And I think that's who you want running the show. You know what I mean?
No doubt, no doubt. They will always work at bettering everything. They're a great team. I loved working with them. One of my favorite weeks was going there and spending time right on site. They created a little office for me. The welcome Christine sign's still there. Every time they take pictures, I giggle. They're just lovely, lovely people. Great hearts.
Yep.
Great vision. I love that company. And, I don't have to wear a T-shirt to say it. I actually wore my own logo today.
Oh yeah, well, we're going to talk about technology in a box deeper in a sec, definitely. But yeah, I agree. The brand's great, but it's not just a bunch of brand and thing. I think everybody who talks to them, they believe in the product and the product works well, and so it's not like they're trying to lead anybody on or anything. It's a real deal, and yep. So it's very exciting, and yeah, everybody's enjoying that. It's a lot of fun too. And each person is a unique personality, obviously, but they're all fired up for the same goal in their own way, which is cool. I've never seen anybody down in the dumps on that team when I'm at conferences.
They are fun. They're energetic. They're young. God,
that's great.
Bless them.
So, are you using T-Sheets for the business at all, or with some of your clients, or?
No, absolutely. Okay. Not only for my business, and I usually adopt a software first in my business in order for me to fully appreciate and fall in love and get passionate about it. I'm not really good at just selling boxes without having a real feel for it. So
yeah. No, that's good.
I love it for myself, and then I got another client on it, and we just got rolling, and then I have another one that's in the works and another one that's going to be in the next 2 months. So, it's going to catch up with a lot of steam. I really feel like it's an easy product to sell.
Yeah, and they do a great job connecting to either desktop or QBO, which is nice. So that's their customer support. I think that's what's key. Yeah. So now, technology in a box, and then we'll get to And by the way, just to recap everybody, because some more people are joining now the Google Hangout. Thanks for coming on, or if you're watching throughout the next couple weeks. Very fortunate. It's just myself. Stacy and Don are out traveling for Intuit type engagements. So it's myself, but we're very fortunate to have Christine Galli on, Executive Director of Technology in a Box, and we're kind of teeing up to some cooler QuickBooks questions and for best practices and thoughts over the years. But we've been talking about her dad and her history and just on T-Sheets. So thanks for hanging in there. So technology in a box. How long have you been with them specifically? Because you were with the clinic and then you guys are using DOS, and I think you went into practice yourself in '94, right? Something like that.
Well, I went into practice. It was Accounting Resource, and then Accounting Resource joined a couple other companies, and we became a conglomerate. And then we kind of broke off a little bit to other companies, and now it's just me and Technology in a Box since 2009.
Nice. And so what kind of, go ahead. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I think most of the premise for the Technology in a Box was that we were really going to franchises and saying it would be great to have a single source of, help for all of your franchisees. You've created this really great brand name. Everything is a canned environment. They always know what to do, how to act, what kind of point of sale, but you don't tee them up for your accounting. And so when you're getting these reports, you are not getting comparable results. And so this training that we do is really so systematic that we have manuals for each franchise. I don't know if you've ever heard of Big O Tires.
Yo, yes.
So Big O Tires is one of my biggest franchises.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're huge, and they have a third-party point of sale that migrates into QuickBooks, but you really, even if you know QuickBooks, you really need to have instruction on how to migrate, how to first get integrated, what to do with the information when it comes over. And so I am the voice of that migration.
Nice. That's awesome. And you guys do a lot with QuickBooks point of sale too, right? Is that true?
In the past they did, but not as much now.
Not so much anymore. Okay.
Mostly the franchises that have third-party software. Little Caesars is another one that we work with.
Wow.
Same thing, anyone that wants to do the accounting on their own, they can have just about anybody. It doesn't have to be a bookkeeper. It doesn't have to be the CPA. We have mothers, we have aunts, we have daughters, people that grow their company. They have up to 20 Little Caesars. They really just follow the same practices over and over, and they're able to get the compliant results.
No, that's awesome. So, we've heard great things about it as well, and so you can find out more. It's technologyinabox.com, correct?
Yeah, .net.
.net, sorry. Technologyinabox.net. Very good. So, back to the QuickBooks piece. I had a question on, what would you like companies to know? So this is, again, more theoretical about QuickBooks, and and this is from the blog. I really like this question. Why should they consider using QuickBooks? Is there anything that stands out that's unique for you? So this would be kind of like your favorites of why a company would do QuickBooks.
Well, one of the reasons why I really believe in QuickBooks so much is that QuickBooks allows people to track the information needed to better manage their companies. And so many people that even are using QuickBooks but are just using it as a checkbook miss out on things like accounts receivable. Some people just, I had a client this morning that all she's ever done is just create checks. And every year her accountant says, but you're on an accrual basis. You have to enter bills. And she's like, it's a pain. I don't want to use that. But, I think it was more or less she was afraid to use it because she didn't really know how to use it. And her items were very general, and they didn't lend itself to any great reporting. And I said, let's just step back. Forget, what you're doing. What do you want to do? What do you want to track? What is important to you? What kind of information are you looking for? And, when you have that kind of deeper conversation, and then kind of decide what looks best for the future, what kind of little phases can we accomplish, what's going to make year-end easier, how can you become the best friend of your accountant. Really, those conversations are so important. And,
Yes.
you know, I try to encourage accountants to also have those same conversations. Look for help. Don't just do it alone. Don't just do your accounting for a tax return.
Right.
And I think so many people do that, and it's just not necessary. And I see a lot of people with very sophisticated softwares wanting to move away from those very costly maintenance requirements,
Right.
ridiculous, and they just don't have that money anymore. And
Right.
they're asking questions like, what would be a better fit for my company? I don't even use an nth of what this current software is
Yeah.
able to offer. So, you know, especially at year end, it's like when the accountant comes in and starts kicking some butt and says, are we going to do this every year? You know, you get mad because you have to pay exorbitant taxes, but you're not ready for me and you need to automate. And so I get a lot of accountants calling these, you know, these months, November, December.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're going to get to year end and your favorite, you know, your kind of your best practices or tips and tricks around year end, or your checklist would be really cool. Do you have a lot of enterprise clients in your base?
I do. I have probably about a third, quite a few enterprise. It's building steam, though, that people want to go to QuickBooks Online.
Oh yeah. Talk about that. Are you seeing that migration even from enterprise?
I am. Actually, I just converted a Peachtree company. They're really cool company in Detroit that creates all those banners that come off from the light poles. And they do all of the Detroit Red Wings. Sorry for all the Colorado fans. They do the Lions, and they, you know, just really put out all the sports media stuff, and it's just phenomenal. But they were on Peachtree, and it was hard to grow with different locations and people in different locations. Actually, the people that own it are from Canada, which is very common around Detroit. Their accountant said, you know, we're trying to get people more on QuickBooks Online, which is great because everyone can benefit from helping them. So we converted them from a very old Peachtree to an older, I think we did 2007 QuickBooks.
Okay.
And then we updated 2014, and then I brought them on to QuickBooks Online.
How did the conversion go? This is the process.
I had to call help a couple times because on the website they didn't have really recent instructions. So I told them that they really needed more recent links to conversions for older peach trees and things like that. So we were fine. I did it within a few hours. And then
that's actually surprising. I thought that would take a couple days maybe.
And it was, this peach tree has been open since like 2003.
Okay. All right.
So it's a lot of data.
Now, are you getting, so are most of the, in your client base, they're moving to QuickBooks Online, are they coming up or over from Pro and maybe some from Premier, or are you actually getting enterprise people too?
I myself was on QuickBooks Enterprise for many, many years and decided to take the plunge and go to QuickBooks Online. And I love it. So not a lot of people are on Enterprise, but I actually have a phone call that was canceled today because everybody was sick. And so
I know. It's going around. It's crazy.
I know,
it's been in the house here, and
it's
poor
crazy.
folks. Yeah,
But
I mean,
they really want to go QuickBooks Online, and they're on Enterprise right now. So
it's interesting because usually, you know, we don't even. I mean, there's a way to do it with IE 10 or 11 in the ActiveX still, but we don't even have an option in Enterprise to just directly convert. It's like the old way, you know, you do it file utilities, which is fine. It still works as long as ActiveX is alive. Which I don't know how long Microsoft's supporting that one. I think for a while yet, but So it's just interesting to me because that usually doesn't come up, you know, in conversations where you're bringing enterprise over. You had mentioned that you're loving QBO, so we have a pretty broad base with the QB show, as you know. I mean, Dawn Brolin is just a great desktop champion. She always will be, but some of her staff use QBO and work on the QBO clients, whereas Stacy, you know, it's kind of the opposite. You know, she has maybe one desktop client left, and the rest are QBO. And so, what is it that you love about it that is relatable for people that kind of do what you do, you know, daily as an accountant?
I think the right off the bat, I will have to say that I love the ability to streamline the app world. And I started off on QuickBooks Enterprise, had to use the Sync Manager, and then I went from, I think it was 13 to 14, and when I did that, the Sync Manager didn't work, and I had to delete it, and I had to reinstall it. So it's kind of like what happens when you're always working with Intuit Statement Writer, and you go from a template on 13 to a template on 14, and Excel is, you know, 2007, or someone's got 2013, and there's just always this battle, this arm wrestling between the powers on your desktop, and just really,
yeah, it's a great way to say that.
it is. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like tug of war. Who's gonna win? And damn it, I always want to win. So, right. You know, it works, but it makes life so difficult. And when I tell clients, especially Little Caesars people, we use Account Edition for the statement writer because they have 4-week periods. They're looking at me like, are you a freak? I'm an Excel 2013, and it doesn't even work with, you know, Account Edition.
That's right.
And
there's no real plans for it either, you know.
I have to send them the little, you know, pirated blurb from whoever, you know, put out the word on how to fix your Excel to work with your QuickBooks, and I just shake my head, and that kind of stuff, Woody, is just nonsense.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hear that.
When I got QuickBooks Online, and all of a sudden it says, open the App Center, ding, connect to T-Sheets, ding, authorize, yeah, that was it. And it's there, and like if I export it out of T-Sheets, it's in. If I connect to Live Plan, it's there. There's none of this nonsense of arm wrestling. So it's exciting. I like it. But
yeah, and that's a great one there. Thanks for that. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You had more?
I miss the templates.
Yes, I was going to ask you what do you want though over from desktop that would kind of help you day to day?
I miss the templates. I really do. That's probably one of the biggest things that I don't understand. I say I want to use purchase orders on QuickBooks Online, and it says add these fields. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can customize those fields, and then I go to print it and it doesn't print. I feel betrayed.
Yeah. Those custom fields don't come out on the print or preview, and I know that we've just enhanced a little bit, so you can at least do an individual template for like a transaction, and then upload a logo and stuff, but you're still limited as far as, you know, how many rows, right? How many fields, you know, reordering the columns. What else can I add? But I know that that's a priority is the templates and actually having a more of a flexible, free, not just like desktop. It'll be much more robust in QBO than it normally has been, you know.
But
so.
that's this much. Can you see?
Yeah, I know, but it's good to know. It's important because that's a priority for us.
There's so many QuickBooks Online QBO features that I cannot believe don't occur in the desktop. That stupid accounts receivable journal entry, how easy it is to add my billable time. I mean,
yeah.
it's fabulous. I love it.
No, that's awesome. And no, there's some cool stuff. I like the recurring transactions. I like how they're set up. I like the bank rules better than the ones in desktop.
Yep.
And once people get a feel for the navigation, I think it's that's why I'm thinking a lot of Pro and Premier. But it's interesting to you that you get not only yourself but other enterprise people coming over. And the more features we put into it, I think that could be the case. So hopefully one day there'll be a direct option from enterprise, not the old way, but under the company menu. I just haven't heard about that. So we'll see. We're really trying to help that conversion process. That team's doing a lot of good stuff as far as what converts, how does it. It's gotten much better just even in the last year. Even like a lot of payroll stuff comes over now, which is cool. So
kudos to the team, though, Woody, because
yeah.
I'm telling you, the Enterprise to QuickBooks Online, I needed help, and the Peachtree to QuickBooks Online, I needed help, and everybody was able to get me there, and I always fill out my surveys.
Nice. Thank you for that. That's great. So, all right, but thanks for weighing on QBO, and that's a good bit for the just people internally to hear that, both sides of your take from being, literally you've been on desktop since DOS, so even before desktop, so technically from Snoopy, which was the code word for the first version. Oh, I had a question, because Jason, Jason Tamactor, I'm sure, over the years, right? You know Jason well, I'm sure. Did you ever get him on support? Because he was on the first, him and Tim Teichman, and there were several others were on the first QuickBooks support team back in the spring of '92, summer of '92.
Probably did, and the funny thing is when we wrote the certification, we had access to everybody. We had a list of every person who helped with every aspect, and it was really funny because when we were updating the certification, with everyone doing the product development, and there might be 15 things we had to write about, talk to the product development managers, work it out, test it, write about it, and then the new version would come out, and like 4 things aren't even in it. They like pulled the plug. We're like, what happened? So that used to happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure it happens now.
See, that's great. See, I love that history, because I just, compared to you, I'm so new to it. It's almost 10 years now. But to go back to '93, that's pretty exciting, even just being able to use it, because fundamentally, as you were saying, there's a lot of fundamental stuff that core to QuickBooks that's still there that you recognize from DOS. And so it just makes sense why you went into the training side and you've helped so many people learn QuickBooks well and effectively for their business. So year-end, which is one of your favorite parts, right? What kind of your specialty year-end with QuickBooks from having done it now? What would this be? 2 years of year-ends with QuickBooks?
That's right.
Yeah. That's
I actually
cool.
have a blog in closing the books, and I just picked up about 3 accounts that were new. Every one of them, I had to review their 2013 balances against the accountant, and none of them matched. So that's like everyone's New Year's resolution, to be your best friend, your accountant's best friend. First thing you have to do is ask your accountant, please send me my trial balance from 2013 and make sure it matches, and make sure it's the right basis, cash or accrual.
Right.
So that's
before you even look at last year, right? Before you even look at the prior year, you look at the one before.
Absolutely, because it's fruitless efforts to clean up 2014 if you don't even have the right start.
So how do you like the troubleshoot account balances in the client data review and desktop? Is that helpful?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I was going to show that there's just a couple things that I always use. The reclassified transactions.
Sure. Do you want to show it? You can in the left. I don't know if you see it when you put your mouse in the Google Hangout. There's,
I'm going to try to do it. Believe me, I was like, I've watched enough of these shows to know I should have the shakes even trying to share my desktop. Are you seeing
Got
that?
it. Yep.
Okay. So this is one of my favorite features. I love the client data review, and I really love just going, it's kind of like, to me, if you go to the very top and you just make it so it's like a wizard for you where you can go and look at everything. And obviously the very first thing that it shows is troubleshoot the prior account balances, and just being able to look at it and say, okay, what am I supposed to have, and then it creates the journal entries. That's phenomenal to me. It's first, believe me, so many bookkeepers, they just want to do their job, and they start like scratching their skin and getting hives when you talk about debits and credits, because they just don't really want to be responsible for that. And yet that's something that people can be responsible for if you've got the right tool, and I think the Accountant Edition is one of those things. The reclassified transactions. Anybody using classes knows that it's one of those things there. You always classify a transaction except for overhead. And so many things like fuel or insurance, you want to make sure that you select all, and down here you have the opportunity to choose what would I reclassify. And so if I just type in overhead and hit reclassify, it throws it all into the classes. Easy peasy. So those are the kinds of things. I love this. I love the going to the item list and making sure that the setup is right. This is, to me, like one of the most major things, and also the most misunderstood. So you just want to make sure that you've got your double entries, your expense accounts where you need them. Make sure that they're all categorized properly, the sales code. And this is also available, obviously, in the add, edit, multiple list entries. You don't have to go through client data review, but certainly get familiar with customized columns and such. You just want to be comfortable. And I think a lot of people are not comfortable editing things and changing things, and they're not quite sure why. And that's when you call someone in and say, hey, I need help. And if you don't want to go through the whole review, you can still go to a portion of it, such as like fixed, unapplied, customer payments and credits. And by client, you can just choose, which ones go together. It's so easy. None of this going into every payment. But the one thing I can say is I have a collision shop in Lansing, and they've got 6 different locations, and they have a third-party software, and many, many times the payment comes in first. And so this is perfect because that is how they put down customer deposits. It's all negative receivable. And so this is like the perfect way of just saying, let's clean this up. And that was another enterprise client that I have on the accountant version, so that they can have those types of,
Oh, that's awesome. Because then you can train them that just one tool without like going in and possibly getting in an area you don't want them. And
Absolutely.
that's a great example of this particular feature. Because it's funny, there's several of these obviously, and you would agree. I'd like to have an accountant tools when you go in through QBOA or you go into QBO as the accountant user. We have the batch of classifying write-off invoices, but really the troubleshooting prior account balances and the added at multiple list functionality or batch enter transactions, and I know they're not all in the CDR, they're elsewhere under the account menu, or company if you're an enterprise, but a few of these other features like linking invoices to payments or even on the vendor side, those I think we need in the accountant tools thing in QBOA, when you're in a QBO file.
I agree, and I have every confidence that that's where it's going to be going, because that's the kind of thing that really just makes an accountant happy that, it's easy cleanup. It's not this arduous clean up, and you can encourage your clients to do it. I have one of the people at the collision shop. I taught her how to go in as an accountant and use the client data review and just clean up every week so she doesn't have this huge accounts receivable report. And it's really very helpful. So that's a big thing, a big form of cleanup. The other thing that people really have a hard time is converting their accrual to cash basis and the journal entry that goes with it. And one of the things I just wanted to show was it's simple to actually just make a journal entry, but the key to converting it is to put the sales line on top. If you make a journal entry where the accounts receivable is on top, it will not create that cash basis report. It will still show a negative 5,000. So
And
it's
you
really
know, and you above all are going to know why, right? That one there.
why? Because
Yeah.
someone told me finally. The cash basis recognizes the sales. So if you don't have the sales on top, it's not really picked up in your reporting. That was my assumption.
Yeah, and that's a good one. But also, and this is not how it is in QBO on a journal entry, but in desktop, the top line is the source. So like the top of the invoice, the top of the check, the top of the bill, the top line of the journal entry. Whereas target is the second line down. So I think that has to do with it too, because I remember that was one of the support calls. It took a while to figure that one out. You know, they weren't seeing an amount on the cash basis, or they were and they didn't want it there, and they did a journal entry. I was like, well, move it, flip-flop the lines. You know what I mean? As you said.
Exactly. And a lot of people, you know, are starting new data files. They're starting a lot of different, you know, migrations. One of the things that we always encourage people to do is make the right journal entries and put them in properly. Checking accounts, usually we start with the bank statement ending and do all the outstanding transactions. This is an example that I wanted to show you too of if you have subcontractors and someone just put in like an opening balance and you really know how much from the old system each subcontractor actually made in, you know, services. This is the way to do it. You want to put it in so each contractor is listed, your 1099 preferences are set up, and that way you can run a report and see that it's going to be able to pull your 1099 summary from last year. So that mid-year kind of transaction is really important in order to get your year-end properly situated.
Hey, that's great. I like that one. That's a
and
cool trick.
also, like, you know, a lot of people, we always tell them to reconcile, and they'll be like, well, how do you reconcile inventory if it's just a physical count? Well, one of the things we say is always reconcile your balance sheet to your subledgers. So if you're running a subledger that is an inventory valuation summary, and it says that it's $149, but your balance sheet says something different, you better go looking for that journal entry that someone made because it's not going to work. And so that's the kind of thing that we're always trying to get people to understand, that even within your own system, you have to use the modules properly in order to get really good reporting. So those types of things, and follow the modules, follow the payroll module, follow the sales tax wizard. Make sure you do inventory properly using the module and all the different activities that are available, you know, right here. That's what this is for, Inventory Center. Use it. I think enough people who look through all the different menus and such will kind of really benefit from just taking a little peek. I used to teach class 8 hours, and people, you know, basically wanted to just go home, take a nap, and have a whiskey glass in their hand. And so it's really a shame, because the bottom line is that people really need to just experiment. It's not going to break. You just have to play with it and really get one with the program, and you'll fall in love with it. So
No, that's
the
awesome.
other thing,
Go ahead.
there was one other thing I wanted to show, and I don't know if a lot of people know about it. One of the products that I use a lot when I'm migrating, because many people do not have the ability to export to Excel. And one of the programs I use, it's called Able to Extract. And I use Able to Extract to like grab an AR report, and you can rotate it. And then you can pick your source after you select what you want. Choose Excel, and then define per document or per page what columns you want to use, and then you convert it, and it goes into Excel, and then you can work on that formatting to get you to the transaction importer. So to me, it's
awesome.
One of those tools that I use all the time, because people like, going from Great Plains, and they don't have the ability to export it to Excel. I always create their detailed AR and AP form. Always. Because they'll say, just put in one number and I'll figure it out later. No, you're going to have all the detail. I'm like, go take a powder, man. You're not going to work with me and have one lump sum. So always get all the detail in, and this is how I do it.
That's awesome. Very cool, and I thank you for sharing out, going into product, and since we're at year end, obviously, and people are going to be, at least for the next month, working that way backwards. It's nice to have those tips and tricks, and I'm glad that, for weeks, for about 2 or 3 years there, I was doing CDR demos constantly, and it just, even after 2 or 3 years, no one was really using it, except for folks like you and everybody at Sleater and Scaling New Heights. But I mean, just other practitioners that don't go to these conferences, they're not really certified, and what they're trying to do that CDR already did even in 2009, let's say, before we even added like things like Batch Classify and 10. It's such a great tool, and I'm just hoping, like, we've already been down there, but hoping that we add more of those tools in QBOA, and we will. I believe with the new QBOA, once we get everybody migrated, we're going to see some cooler accountant tools. So very exciting.
I think one of the my wishes would be that accountants really get these QuickBooks classes and teach them how to use QuickBooks Accountant Edition.
Yes.
I think so many times you have clients using it, and yet the accountants themselves are not using QuickBooks Accountant.
They're using Pro sometimes, I know. And
it makes me crazy, because that's the one thing, just even if you sign in as an external accountant and you're able to use that, it's going to help just teaching your client how to use it. And you wouldn't even have to be, burying your head in, the books for 3 or 4 hours trying to figure it out. So I like to educate the accountants by saying, here's what you can do, or here's what you need to tell your client to keep this up. So that and purchase orders. I wish accountants would push purchase orders more. I wish accountants would push using credit card type accounts more. Right. It would just budgets. How many people still don't use budgets? Makes me crazy.
Yeah, that's been in there forever.
That should be the New Year's resolution. Everyone uses budgets or Live Plan or something.
Yeah. Well, that's this has been so fun. Even though I don't feel well, it's been because of everything you've been through with QuickBooks from DOS, and yet you're very much open to and embracing QuickBooks Online. So literally, you've run the whole gamut, and then of course you're heavy with the third-party apps too. It's just really refreshing, Christine, and to get your take, and not just best practice on desktop, but what you like about QBO and stuff. And it's been very enjoyable for me talking to you the last hour. I thank you so much for coming on tonight.
I know. I didn't think we'd hang on this long, Woody.
Oh, no, it's been great because everything you were talking, and then I'd get these other questions in my head, and I left the syllabus a while ago. It's just been really fun just conversing with all your history and nostalgia. And thanks for sharing about your dad. That was fun, too. I think people will like that.
Yeah, I wrote a couple blogs about my dad. He was a big influencer in my life, and it's one of those things where there were 4 girls, kind of an ethnic background family. No one was supposed to even work after you got out of college, barely getting to college. And I had to go head to head with them and say, listen, you had me working as a 13-year-old. What makes you think I'm going to walk away and have babies? Not that I don't have babies. I've got
right. Yeah, you got.
But
you got your boys.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was supposed to have my son come in and kiss me goodbye because he's.
Oh yeah, where's he going?
He's going to be a financial management trainee at the St. Regis Hotel in Aspen, Colorado.
Oh my gosh.
And he's a snowboarder.
Sweet. Oh well, he's not coming back.
Michigan
he's not
State.
coming back. He'll come back in the summer maybe, but probably not in the winter.
Yeah, right. I will never see him. He'll be hopping from Starwood to Starwood property.
Oh, and by the way, that's right. I enjoyed the Michigan State victory on New Year's Day. I watched that game.
And I love you too, Woody.
That was fun because I forget who they were playing, but I was not a fan of the other team, so I was glad.
Baylor.
Yeah, I'm not a Baylor.
Go to my Facebook. I've got the score on my cover page.
Yep. Yeah, that was a surprising win. That in Wisconsin, those were good wins. So
yeah, I was stuck to the TV, and of course, I don't know if you heard we were at the QB Connect, and Magic Johnson was coming onto the stage, and I stood on my chair, held up a Go State sign and said, "Go Green," and he yelled out, "Go White." And then he said, "There's a Spartan fan in the audience." So I'm confessing on the QB show that was me.
That's awesome. Well, we'll see you at the next conference, probably Scaling New Heights or Sleater anyway, or the next QB Connect down the road anyway.
Absolutely. And I do love all your demos. Woody, you're a great demoer at those conferences.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I mean, coming from you, that means tons, because you've been doing it a lot longer than myself, so I appreciate that encouragement. And sorry Don and Stacy couldn't be here, but Stacy was on a plane, and Don is doing that local event in Rhode Island, in Providence tomorrow. So, but this worked out great, just the two of us, because we were able to hash out so much more things, and it was just very cool. I appreciate you taking the time tonight to come on the QB show. And
I appreciate you more because you're sick, and now tell me you're going to go to bed. Yeah,
I'm going to go rest.
Okay.
Rest. Have some more chicken soup, go to sleep. Yep, definitely.
But
no, it's good. Thanks for Yeah, totally. So we're going to sign off now. We've had Kristen Galli on the whole hour, which has just been awesome. You can find out more at technologyinabox.net, technologyinabox.net. And Christine, thanks again for coming on, and have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Woody. You too. Feel better.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Throw away thumb drives, no attachments. Get the files anywhere when you're permitted access. What's the matter? Frustrated with the hassle? Jump up in the cloud and join us in the castle.
High up in the clouds and we're